Hello, are we live? I guess we are. Ladies and gentlemen, what's good, y'all? It's the Showmeister Chris Gary, and I brought along Mike Stoltz with me.
Soltez.
Saltez, right. But still, though, this is a special Focus Fights audio quick hits chat, and we're basically here to not talk about the whole card for Ryzen 49 coming up on December 30th. We're just going to talk about 8 fights in particular as it has been announced overnight last night or early this morning, wherever you are watching around the world. Basically, Rukia Ampo got a fight coming up. Unfortunately, it's not against Ryan Garcia, but it's something interesting. So, Tez, you want to talk about it?
Um, Interesting is a word to describe it. He's fighting former K1 Cruiserweight champion Cena Karaminian, who's, I want to say, like 4 or 5 inches taller and at least 40, 50 pounds bigger than him at the least. And I believe it's 2 minutes, 6 rounds of 2 minutes under boxing rules, essentially.
Hmm? I
So, I mean, considering it's a last minute fight, could you have done better? Maybe. But this is a freak show, and it's kind of interesting in a show that, frankly, doesn't exactly have a ton of mainstream appeal for the most part. I think, long story short, I think Ampo should win. One, he's much faster because I've seen Cena fight many times, and man, is he stiff when he's no head movement, and everything he does just looks really slow. And he's, as I said, his chin is straight up. Can he get hit easily? He's been knocked down multiple times.
mm,
His hands aren't that great, in my opinion. So if Ampo's improved like he looked against Pacquiao, I know much different size, all that jazz. He should be able to beat Karaminian, especially because Cena's coming in on short notice.
of course he is, because not only that, didn't he also fight a hell of a lot more recently than Ampo have?
Yes, he fought twice. Once, what was it? September, October against Claudio Estrate, and then against, I forgot the guy's name. The two no contests or DQs or whatever they were.
Oh my god! I mean, come to think of it, no wonder why Cena Karimian's the hero of foul play, because when it comes down to the man, all he knows how to do is dirty boxing.
Yeah, he's a decent fighter, but K1 Cruiserweight isn't exactly ripe with killers.
Of course, it's not. I mean, Liu Sha, Liuce, basically just got his ass handed to him in mixed martial arts right after he won the K1 World Grand Prix. And oh, by the way, Cena Karimian fought in 2 no contests this year, in addition to getting his ass handed to him by Liu Sha, losing to Claudio Estrate, the Grizzly.
Okay, so was it changed to a no contest?
I no way. Actually, I think this fight happened because of the fact that it was an accidental punch to the back of the head, and
Mm-hmm.
then this dummy got disqualified again because of an accidental groin kick to Daichi Kimura.
That's what it was. Okay.
But still, though, I get what you mean. Ampo's basically going to have an easy time facing off against Karimian, especially considering the fact that by the time Karimian fights this bout, it will be, what, about 2+ weeks since his last bout?
Yeah, something like that. So he hasn't really had a lot of time to prepare for this.
Yeah, of course, especially considering the fact that he was supposed to have been wanting to make his MMA debut with Ryzen with a full fight camp. But again, in lies the problem that Ryzen can't get guys that are heavier than 90 kilos
Yeah,
to fight in their promotion from
yeah.
outside the Japanese and Asian confines.
Right. I mean, if I remember right, didn't Mahmoud Satari say he was in negotiations with Ryzen, but they couldn't find an opponent for him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, him and Cena would have been an interesting fight.
I mean, are you sure about that?
Yeah, because Satari's a good fighter. He would have kicked Cena's ass. I'm pretty sure of that.
I mean, I'm probably sure of it. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing these two fight, considering the fact they never fought each other before outside of training. But still,
No, no. I mean, and Satari's a lot more likable than Cena. I'll put it like that.
of course he is. But still, though, enough about talking about a fight that almost did not happen, especially considering the fact that Rising's going to have to improve their international outreach this upcoming year if they want to get noticed. I mean, it's not just of them getting guys like Ryan Garcia involved, but also when you think about it now, I think they need to get more international fighters involved in this promotion. I mean, if you look at it this way, a good chunk of the fighters on this upcoming card, I think like 9 in total are from or hailed from outside of Japan.
Mhm.
So, do you think that when it comes down to it, it's going to need to improve in order for them to survive?
Yes and no.
Why is
I think they need more fighters to get just bolster the roster depth, but at the end of the day, they need Japanese stars, and they don't really have that many right now, especially with the Asakura's gone.
oh, right, of course.
I mean, it's a they need as I said, they need people to build up, but they're not going to be the ones that like draw the tickets, draw the pay-per-views in Japan, their primary revenue source. It has to be a native Japanese fighter, and like I said, they're kind of lacking in that right now. I know they hope Akimoto is the next one, and
Hmm.
they better pray to God that Chihiro beats Kleber.
Hmm. Because if not, then there goes their featherweight division, right?
Not it'll not their featherweight division, but a potential draw because Kleber is a very good fighter, but I'm not sure how many tickets he'll actually move.
I mean, to be honest, I'm not even sure how long that guys like a Kleber Koike Herbst will be able to stay in Rising without truly getting themselves noticed.
Very true.
And
Very true. And
and
that's a discussion for another day.
but you know what? Speaking of, let's go ahead and talk about these title fights right off the bat. I mean, you got Chihiro Suzuki versus Kleber Koike. I mean, these two are facing off against each other in a rematch of a no contest that was only made possible because Kleber couldn't make weight the first.
Mhm. Yeah,
How
yeah.
different do you think this fight will be, considering the fact that it's been a year and a half since these two faced off against each other?
Well, for starters, I do think Chihiro's improved his grappling and his submission defense a lot. Um, I do think that it's going to just come down to if Chihiro can keep the fight standing. I mean, that if he goes down to the ground, he's done. If he stays up, he has a very good chance of knocking Kleber out. Because
Mm,
Kleber has deceptive stand up, but he still gets hit way too easily, and Chihiro can knock anyone out with one shot.
true, that he can. I mean, just ask Patricio Pitbull.
Yeah, and like I said, Kleber is getting up there in age, so you never know when it might be done. But yeah, standing Chihiro, ground, Kleber. Not much to say there.
Of course. But come to think of it, when it comes to Kleber Koike, he's riding a two-fight winning streak, albeit those two wins are against Yutaka Saito and a very pissed off Juan Archuleta. But still, though, do you think that somewhat plays to a factor of that? Even though Chihiro is coming off of a 5 fight unbeaten streak himself.
No, I think if anything, Kleber should have the advantage in that sense because you can say what you want about the no contest. Kleber submitted him. So Chihiro's got to prove he can actually he can actually control range and not get lured into Kleber's world.
Mm-hmm. And
That
by in
oh,
our short chat, Andrew is saying MMA math. Kanehara beats Kleber. Chihiro beat Kanehara. Chihiro has to beat Kleber.
we'll see in a few days.
Yeah. Of course, that we will. That we will. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the lightweight title bout. That lightweight title bout being Roberto Satoshi de Souza in his fourth title defense against former featherweight champion Vugar Karamov. Now, the thing about Karamov is simple. He's only had one fight in the last year, and that one fight is a knockout win in 28 seconds over former Rebel FC champion Kazumasa Maijima. But it's also because of the fact that he had to deal with legal issues preventing him from even getting into Japan in the first place. As far as Roberto Satoshi goes, let's just say he's 2-3 in his last five, but those two losses were no, he's 3-2 in his last five. What the hell am I saying? Either way, those two losses were to some big game competition and AJ McKee and Patricky Pitbull Fiore.
And you can argue he beat McKee.
Yeah, of course he beat McKee, but still though, the Bellator guys that came around 2 years ago, those guys were just ready to scrap.
Mm-hmm.
But still, though, when it comes down to this particular fight, even though, of course, Karamov has not fought since November 17th, and obviously De Souza trying to go for De Souza trying to go for a three-peat to end the year and retain on his fourth defense, do you think that the advantage will more so play into Vugar because of his knockout power?
It's gonna depend. If Vugar can keep this standing, I think he's gonna knock Satoshi out. If Souza can get it to the ground, I think he can submit Vugar, but Karamov is just very well rounded, so I'm not sure actually on that. I think Vugar's got the advantage.
And Andrew has a question saying, what do you think about Vugar getting a shot at lightweight immediately?
Not a big fan of it, but there's really no one at lightweight who's established himself as a actual contender since Souza starts Gustavo so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Ryzen needs to bring in new lightweights in 2025. Amongst many things they need to do.
Yeah, that's a laundry list basically worth looking at. But when you think about this, I mean, you say that Ryzen needs to bring in new lightweights, and I totally understand you because who else is Roberto Satoshi de Souza going to face off against? I mean, Japan doesn't really have a vast collection of talent at 155 pounds, anyways. But let's just say if Vugar wins this fight, would you book an immediate rematch, or would you basically say, hey, let's go ahead, move on, have Vugar face off against the next available challenger?
I would say immediate rematch in all likelihood, because there's no one really else. I mean, the two that come to mind, depending on their next results, will be Kang Kyo Kim and Spike Carlisle. Those are the two that come to mind immediately. So, and they need another win or two. I suppose if he's still is serious about fighting and he comes in, maybe Yamato Nishikawa, who beat Sho Patrick Usami. I don't know anything if the decision was bad or what have you, but that's really the only Japanese challenger I think that, if they build him up, could be even a remotely credible challenger at this point.
But other than that, Ryzen needs to get more lightweights from outside of Japan just to bolster their roster.
They need both, honestly.
Oh, well, to be honest, I mean, maybe they could use all the extra money they're getting from this Ryan Garcia thing and just think about getting some top-notch free agents, even though those top-notch free agents probably are already signed to other promotions. Maybe they're signed to this Global Fight League stuff that may or may not work out. Another story, another time.
Yeah. And as far as prediction, I'm going to go with Vugar by knockout in the second.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in one round. No.
Same here. I think Satoshi will be able to get it to the ground, but I do think Vugar's good enough on the ground to stop his submission defense is good enough. to stop that and eventually knock Satoshi out.
I see. Now, moving on to the flyweight title bout. And this one is really key here because you got the king of the promotion in Kiyoshi Horiguchi, who is making his second defense of the flyweight belt, obviously being the former Bellator and Rizin bantamweight champion, former UFC title challenger, yada, yada, yada. But he's facing off against a guy who many Japanese fans may know from beating Hiromasa Okikubo on The Ultimate Fighter, and that is longtime EFC Africa legend Nakazi Mulo Shaka Zulu, or Zulu Boy Zulu, who basically turned a lot of heads with that first round knockout over Joe Arai at Rising 48
Yep.
back in September. Now, when you think about this, Zulu is and like I said, Zulu's an icon in EFC Africa, former flyweight, well, current flyweight champ over there, former flyweight and bantamweight kingpin over there. But when it comes down to facing Kyoji Horiguchi, how much of a chance do you think he really has at dethroning Risen's top draw?
Anyone can beat anyone on any given day. I think Kyoji is the more talented guy. Always with him, you worry about slippage at 34. I know Zulu is older, but Kyoji's got more mileage on him, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, and the way Kyoji holds his hands with his karate stance, there's always the chance he can get caught with something. I mean, Zulu is that spin kick makes me think there's a that he hurt Arai with, makes me think that there's a variety of his attack that Kyoji's going to have to be wary of.
Mm-hmm. And I mean,
I think overall Kyoji's just a better fighter in every aspect, faster, better hands, kicks, etc. And he'll just set him up with the jab and eventually knock him out.
right, of course. And I mean, you talk about, Kyoji getting caught with a lot of things. I mean, this is the dude who got caught by Kai Asakura and got knocked by straight right hands and got caught with a spinning back fist by Sergio Pettis.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's in large part because of the way he holds his hands with the
exactly.
karate stance. And there's good and there's bad with that. But I would expect Kyoji to be very well prepared. I mean, this is only his second fight this year, so I would expect I'm sure he's had a full camp preparation, all that stuff.
And for Zulu, this will be his third fight this year, but obviously people are still talking about that knockout he had over Joe Arai, not about the submission over Gript Walker in EFC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I will say the fact that Zulu got a title shot in his second bout in the promotion shows you I won't say lack of depth, because I think Ryzen has some very good flyweight fighters. It's just that there's no one there, or that Horiguchi fighting would be fresh or challenging other than one person who he's already beaten 3 damn times, Ogi
Mm,
Kubo.
Yeah,
And he's already beaten Shinryu too, so
nobody wants to see a fourth fight between
no.
Kyoji and Ogi, just
No.
like nobody wants to see a third fight between him and Shinryu.
No. The only other person I can think of is maybe if he gets built up a little more right now is Laramie.
As in the Wild Man TJ Laramie?
Yeah, or whatever the mullet guy, whatever his name is, the mullet guy from November.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Who made the Ultimate Warrior sprint to the cage.
Yeah, but either way, those are really the only flyweights I can think of that I think might be a credible threat to him, and even then.
So, I mean, to be honest, when it comes down to Kyoji Horiguchi, I guess the real question would have to be asked is, if he does retain his title over Quasimodo Zulu, how many more fights do you think he'll get before he finally decides to hang up the gloves? I mean, like you said,
I don't know, but I will say this, because of Sakakibara and Ryzen essentially pushing hard for Kai to go to UFC, I don't see why they wouldn't, if Kyoji really forces the issue, have Kyoji go to UFC. I think that's a real possibility in 2025.
Really? I
I
mean,
do.
I'm pretty sure that if Kyoji is going back to the UFC, it'll probably be due to unfinished business.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if he pushes to be let out of his contract or what have you.
Especially because he wants to face off against the best in the world again.
Yeah, and he only has so much time left. He's 34 years old.
I mean, to be honest, the same could also be asked for Zulu, who's 35.
He is, but he's also hasn't fought nearly as much as Horiguchi, and there's still plenty of fighters for him to fight in Ryzen, where Kyoji's been in the promotion for almost 7 years.
Well, 8, to be honest. I mean, he did start in 2017.
That's true, 7.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, he's pretty much cleaned out the promotion.
Well, yeah, cleaned out the promotion, but I mean, people probably think that there should have been a third fight between him and Kyle Sakura.
Yeah, there should have, but alas, it didn't. It wasn't meant to be. The one fight that I would say might be intriguing would be him versus Kiyoma Akimoto.
Oh, interesting. And you know what? Speaking of Kiyoma Akimoto, he's going to be facing against Yuki Motoya in a bout that might decipher the next contender at flyweight.
Or
And
Bantam. It's for Bantam.
okay, bantamweight. Even though I know that Naoki Inoue ain't on this card.
Injury.
Huh?
Injury.
Right.
Yeah, we should have talked about that sort of bad segue, but there's a lot of injuries. Naoki Inoue, Rena, that's why she's not fighting. Seika Izawa, Ryan Garcia, Ren, Hiramoto. So yeah, there's quite a bit of star power that's lacking on this card.
And that's probably why there's not going to be any good pay-per-view sales off of it on either side of the Pacific, right?
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. I'm sure that the fights that were announced last week, or this week, I should say, will help a little bit. But as far as the gate and pay-per-views, hard to say.
I mean, come to think of it, like I said, it's probably not going to be much because Famio, who said that they were going to do the card for the Ryan Garcia portion, said outright over the last few days that they were going to do the whole card in general. But still, though, you got to think now with that amount of star power missing, that is definitely going to tank pay-per-view sales, at least on this side of the Pacific.
Yes. Yeah, it will. I mean, as far as Japan, we'll just have to wait and see. It's a good card, but like I said, it lacks star power. It's pretty simple.
Oh, yeah, of course. But still, going back to the fight we were talking about in question, I basically coined this as age over youth because Yuki Motoya, 35 years old, 36-12, former two-division deep champion, flyweight and bantamweight, by the way, is facing off against a young hotshot and 18-year-old Kiyoma Akimoto.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, been to all but two, well, actually, in all but 2 fights in his career, he's basically knocked somebody out or made somebody tap out. So, when it comes down to this fight, I guess the advantage really does favor the youth in this case, right?
Stand-up wise, yes. I think Kiyoma Akimoto's, I want to say he's 5'10", and he's also a southpaw. And we've already seen in his 2 Ryzen fights against Kintaro and against a very good striker in Hiroaki Suzuki, he was able to outbox them at points and use his range effectively. And Motoya does have good stand-up, but he doesn't move his head that much, and he can be hit. And Akimoto, as I said, is very good with range. He's faster and all that stuff. So if he keeps us standing, he has a very good chance of winning the fight. But if it goes to the ground, and I think Motoya submits him.
I mean, are you sure? Well, actually, I can't really ask if you're sure about that because Montoya does have 14 wins via submission, so there's 2.
Yeah, and this is gonna be a huge test for Akimoto's wrestling and submission grappling. If it's not on point, he loses. Simple as that.
I mean, especially considering the fact that when it comes down to experience, Montoya's got that in spades, something that Akimoto has yet to even scratch the surface off of in his
Yeah.
7.
Yes. Yeah. And he hasn't really dealt with that, not that much, if any, adversity. I think Kintaro took him down, but it wasn't like a serious threat. Montoya is a serious threat on the ground, as we well know. It's going to be a good fight.
Well, to be honest, when it comes down to Akimoto, the only serious fight he's had so far was Hiroaki Suzuki, and he pretty much dominated that from pillar to post.
Yeah, but Suzuki is not a grappler,
Of course,
and I don't think that's his best win. I think it's Alan Hiro Yamaniha.
Mm-hmm. On that Fighting Angels card.
Mm-hmm. So Yamaniha's a solid fighter, so that's a very good win. So he can fight. The question is, how good is he? Especially at 18, he's got all the time in the world. But Ryzen's fast tracking him because they need new draws and they need him quick.
Otherwise, they're not liable to survive.
I don't think they're in danger of going under anytime soon, but long term, it will become a problem, obviously.
Yeah, of course. And in the case of Montoya, let's just face it, last year, New Year's Eve, he lost to Vince Morales, who ended up using this fight as a springboard to get back into the UFC. And since then, Montoya's managed to pull off 2 straight rear naked choke victories. I mean, submission's going to be the key to this fight being a win for Montoya. But let's just say, if that submission game don't work, what would he need to work on?
He would just have to throw his strikes with intelligent pressure, work behind his jab, which he's shown he's capable of because he's got a good one jab and a right hand. The problem is that he's, like I said, he can be hit easy. And Akimoto's 1, 2, 3 right jab, left cross, right hook is very good.
Mm-hmm.
So Montoya could try to pressure him and overwhelm him that way and use his experience, but he's going to need to really wear down Akimoto because I think Akimoto has the striking advantage.
Understood. And it's only going to be a matter of time before we see that play out.
Mm-hmm.
Back down to the flyweight division and back down to Ryzen's need for future talent at 125 pounds. Makoto Shinryu Takahashi, former Ryzen and Bellator flyweight title challenger, takes on Chicago's very own decorated MMA veteran, IMMA veteran, UFC veteran, former Brave CF champion, Jose Shorty Torres. Now, when it comes down to this particular fight, I mean, I'm just going to outright say that, because I'm biased, I think that Torres is probably going to win this fight just because, but let's just say that Shinryu, who's basically been fighting for points, most of his wins are via decision. Yeah, he has that luchador-esque style of feel to where he captivates people into a fight. But how do you think that he'll be able to win this fight against a dude more known for forcing an opponent to pile drive himself?
Shinryu's going to have to wrestle. He's going to do what he does. Wrestle and either grind or try to submit someone. He's had more finishes in recent fights. I will say that. Aside from that, that's really all I can say about it. I'm not super familiar with Torres, to be honest. I didn't get the chance to look him up.
UFC or see him fight in Brave CF?
I think I probably saw him fight in UFC, but it's been so long.
Oh my God. Let's just say that the only fight that's worth remembering was the fight where he made Jarrett Monkey God Brooks pile drive himself. That was all the way back in 2018, though. Since then, he's only managed to fight. No, since then he's only managed to hold up a 4-4 and 1 record. Well, a 4-3 and 1 record, and that's off the back of only fighting like a few times a year.
Well, we'll see if the when was his last fight?
His most recent fight, actually, his most recent set of fights was a trilogy against Nkose Ndebele back at Brave CF 73, 80, and 82. More recently, Brave CF 82 back on May 11th.
Okay, so he's been out of the ring for 7.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if there's any rust there. I'm going to go with Shinryu by decision.
I can understand that. And also to play into factor, Jose Shorty Torres has not fought in a ring before, probably since his amateur days. So that's definitely going to play into some confusion.
Yeah, it will.
I mean, especially considering the fact that all he has basically known throughout his career, and you can date it all the way back to Titan FC as a professional for him, all he's known is the cage. He doesn't know how to handle the 4 quarters.
No, and the most important thing, the Ryzen rule set.
Oh my God. Jay Wolf would have a damn field day talking about this, saying he needs to know the assignment. But I don't think he even understands what the assignment is.
And Shinryu didn't look great in his fight against Kenta last month. Well, we'll see. Shinryu's a good fighter, and the great ones rise to the occasion. So we'll see.
Pun intended, of course.
It is.
Yeah, of course. Going to the featherweight division. Obviously, this one will be a tough test for the smiling sniper Yuta Kubo. As distractions aside, he's going to need to focus all his energy towards knocking off the undefeated Razabali Shadulev.
Yes. This is some interesting matchmaking. It's not what I would have done.
I mean, come to think of it, if you were potentially even booking a fight for Yuta Kubo, who would you have had him face instead of Razabali Shadulev?
I would have booked him with Yaman.
I mean, just for the entrances?
That and the fact that it's to strike an aggressive striker versus a counter puncher.
Yeah, of course.
So, and whereas you have Balbek and Shaduliev, who are just dynamic in all aspects of the game, and it'd be more evenly matched on both sides.
Of course. And I mean, Shadulev is a well-decorated submission grappler dating back to his days in Absolute Championship Akhmat.
Yes.
So, it comes down to that, and the fact that most of his wins come in the first round. I mean, you have to just ask Juan Archuleta, who got his ass handed to him by Shadulev 3 months ago.
Yeah, you can argue, I suppose, if Juan was anywhere near ready for that fight, but the fact of the matter is, Shaduliev dominated him, and it's a very good win. So, I think Shaduliev runs through him, takes him down, submits him pretty quick, unless Kubo somehow can keep this standing. And even then, my issue with Kubo is that he's too tentative, and he can stink out the joints sometimes. That fight with Ryogo Takahashi back in Ryzen Trigger in March was awful. And that's him at his worst. Him at his best was fighting Saito, being first. The problem is, if he tries for a kick, Shaduliev's going to take him down.
Oh, yeah, of course he is.
No. And so if I'm Kubo, I just stick to punches.
That way.
And whatever you do, avoid the clinch.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Avoid the clinch, because once you get put in that, it's pretty death sentence. But still, Andrew is saying, Shai mauls Kubo, then Sarah cries on camera.
Yeah, but if we get an epic Sarah entrance, I'd be all for it.
Oh, yeah, of course. She's definitely going to go all out. That's what I mean by homeboy needs to get rid of the distractions. And also, when it comes down to, Andrew and what he said, I would have done Yaman versus
He's
Hugh.
right. Andrew's 100% right. Pardon my language, but I feel the same way. It would have drawn more interest, and it would have like Kubo and Yaman's a really good fight domestically. It's about where they both. I don't. Kubo's farther along, but I don't think he's anywhere near ready for someone like Shaduliev. But it is what it is. I do think that those two should face off next, but it wouldn't shock me if both of them are poached by UFC after this.
Wait a minute, you mean both Doubtbeck and Shadulia
Yeah,
on? I mean,
absolutely. Depending on the contract situation, which I don't know, but if I'm UFC, I try to get both of them immediately. Like these guys are phenomenal.
of course, they're phenomenal, especially considering the fact that when you look at a potential fight between Shaidulayev and Doubtbeck, who we're going to talk about in a moment,
Mhm.
they combine for. I mean, you got 15 finishes on Doubtbeck's end. You got 11 finishes on Shaidulayev's end. Those two guys combined for 25 finishes, most of them in the first round. I would not want to basically tangle with either of them.
No, absolutely not. And just let's segue into it. It's the same deal. Yeah, man needs to keep this standing. In theory, he should be the better striker, but he's not the most technical striker. He's a brawler. And Doubtbeck is pretty good technically. He has good solid fundamentals, and he's a southpaw.
I mean, come to think of it, when you talk about Ren Sugiyama, and yes, I'm using his government name, because, yeah, I know Andrew's going to get pissy at me for calling him anything other than Yaman. But still, though, when it comes down to Sugiyama, you have to think his two fights in mixed martial arts so far were against Ren Hiramoto and Hiroaki Suzuki. He lost to Ren Hiramoto. He knocked out Hiroaki Suzuki.
And then he beat Kota Miura. His debut was against Kota Miura.
So really, he's 2-1 in professional MMA.
Yes.
But still, though, when you think about Yaman,
Mhm.
his career hasn't even reached its peak yet, and he's already getting thrown into the damn wood chipper.
Yeah. Yeah. But he also has been calling Doubtbeck out for a while. So I'm not surprised that they gave into him. Like I said, I wouldn't have done this, but it's here, and it's got to be controlled aggression, because if he's wild, Doubtbeck's gonna counter him to hell.
I mean, come to think of it, I think maybe, as the old saying goes, Yaman is writing too much of a check that his ass won't be able to cash.
I think in this case, yeah, I like man, but I think he's gonna get taken down and submitted or ground and pounded out.
Nah,
It's too
in,
much too soon.
in a way, considering the last 7 fights that Doubtbeck has had, one in ACA, about a few others over in Russia, one for Kyoji Horiguchi's ill-fated promotion, Top Brights, and obviously the two in Ryzen. I think we're seeing a trend here, which is why Doubtbeck is on the Bald Father's radar. He likes knocking people out. And I think we're going to probably see another first round masterpiece from Doubtbeck at the expense of Ren Sugiyama after he has another dazzling entrance.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I don't think it's going to be on. It could be on the feet, but I think it's more likely ground and pound knockout.
I mean, either way, a knockout's a knockout, and I'm
Oh, I
pretty.
get it. I get it. It's like I said. Yeah, man can knock anyone out. Like he can punch like hell, but
Mm-hmm.
Doubtbeck can counter, and boy, has he improved his grappling too.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, a lot of people can basically call for the argument there's a difference between MMA striking and kickboxing or boxing striking.
There is,
Mm-hmm. It's
there
just
is,
comes
but
down,
if you can strike, you can strike.
yeah. But when it comes down to being in the elements of certain rule sets, I think that it doesn't matter how you do strike. You just have to learn how to conform with those strikes.
Mhm.
And I think Doubtbeck probably might be the main one to conform with those strikes because, again, we've only seen a sample size of Yaman in mixed martial arts. He's more known as a kickboxer. He's the former, former or current Rise Open Finger Glove 143-pound champion. I don't.
I think he's the current one, but I don't think it's been defended since he won it.
Yeah, back in August of 2023. But still, though, point of the matter is, I think Yaman's definitely. We both agree, of course, whether it's to the ground or standing up. If Homeboy's not careful, he's gonna get knocked the fuck out.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Now, as far as the other 15 bouts that are gonna be on the card, I don't want to ask anything about that. But I'm gonna just go ahead and say, which one would you basically say is on your radar to watch, and which one did you think that shouldn't be on the card?
The one that I really want to see is on the first part of Rise in Decade. It's Yura versus Tayo Asahisa. I think that's a hell of a fight. I've been watching Tayo Asahisa for a long time in K1.
Oh,
Former K1 world champion, karate guy. He's really fun to watch. I think he tends to get a bit wild in there, and Yura is a pretty solid young fighter, which is unlike a lot of breaking down guys who are amateurs and not very good at that. But that's the one that intrigues me the most out of the first session. It really does. It's a good one. As far on the other side, on Ryzen 49, I'm actually kind of curious about Taka Kenshin and Edo Polo King.
right, because of the fact that Edipolo King is making his MMA debut, and he's a giant 6'8" Nigerian Korean oddity.
Yes. And that's the other freak show with the deepest respect to him on the card. I'm genuinely curious. He dare I say he kind of gives me a Hongman Choi type vibe.
If Hong Man Choi was 6'8" instead of 7'4".
Yeah, and didn't rap.
Oh yeah, of course. But as far as the one fight you don't want to see, I would guess it has something to do with the rise in women's super anime division, right?
No, actually,
Okay.
the one that I just makes no sense to me is Genji Umeno and Taiga.
I mean, come to think of it, is it because of the fact that you got two kickboxers, predominant kickboxers, making their MMA debuts?
Yeah, I I guess Umeno's popular with that Yabai stuff, but
Yeah.
he is so damn boring to watch. I swear to God, I love Taiga, been a fan of his forever, but I'm not sure. I mean, if he wants to move to MMA, cool, but yeah, I don't care. There's a reason why this is the first fight on that on the main card.
I mean, my God, I think you might be right. There's a reason why those two are jerking the curtain, so to speak, because of the fact that it's two novices in MMA basically looking to, try and crack at least a little bit of a buzz.
Yeah, not to mention get more money because I doubt Rise pays them that much.
No shit. But still, though, when it comes down to it, the only things that are going to be exciting about that fight are the entrances and the end of it.
Yeah.
Because they basically put on a stellar performance, you know, that fight's not going to be, let's just say that fight ain't going to be worth shit.
No, and it won't. And I'll say this: it won't be Taiga's fault.
Uh, duh. Of course it won't.
No,
Now,
but it's just that I will say this about Taiga. He, my issue with this match is that Umeno is both of them are counter punchers.
mhm.
That's the biggest problem. I would have booked Taisei Sakuraba against is Umeno bantamweight, I believe.
Yeah, I think Kenji Umeno is a bantamweight fighter.
Okay, because the thing is, I would have said maybe book Taisei Sakuraba with one of these two, but probably it's too big of a size difference.
Yeah, of course, because Saku Jr. is going to have to trim down from 155 just to get to 135.
I would say do it at a catch. I would have suggested do it at a catch weight, but
like at 147 pounds or something?
something like that.
Yeah, of course. That would definitely make sense. Way more sense than putting Taisei Sakuraba out there full frontal to have him face off against Yusuke Yachi.
Yeah, that's another match that I was really surprised at, but it's typical matchmaking for the Japanese. Unfortunately, they don't know how. A lot of the times they don't know how to move their prospects the right way.
Yeah, of course. And you know what? Speaking of the last thing I can talk about, yeah, it does have to deal with the Rising Women's Super Anime Division. And Andrew was saying, "Oh God, Saku Jr. with a ball Ueno."
That's the point. That's the whole point.
Just like Kota Miura is probably gonna maul Daichi Tomizawa on the undercard.
I would think. I don't think Tomizawa's ever fought in MMA to my knowledge. Could be wrong on that, but
Yeah, of course. But still, though, going back to my final question, which is about the Super Atomweight title not being defended on this card, because yeah, Reina Kubota is injured. But given Seiki just a regular old jobber, and yes, I am saying that Luisia Malaonda Abdelgerum is a jobber because she's 2-3 overall. She's only there for a paycheck. I don't think she has a chance to win that fight. And yeah, Andrew agrees with me. This is the shittiest match on the card. I mean,
it is. But I'd rather watch it than Umeno and Taiga because at least it'll probably end in an exciting submission.
Yeah.
At least it won't feel like 15 minutes of my life I'll never get back.
Yeah, but still, when it comes down to Izawa, do you think that it's only going to be a matter of time before she ends up going elsewhere?
Yep.
Because I think that any strawweight or atomweight girls are really willing to face off against her.
No, other than a Rena match next year, and if somehow they can frickin' coax her to fight Oshima, which that won't happen. So yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, that's about it. I would imagine she'll go to UFC at some point if they create a smaller division because she's too small for 115. That's the problem.
Yeah, of course she's too small for 115. That really hindered Jinyu Frey when she moved to the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think you want to see a third fight with Hamasaki.
Of course we don't, because we all know it'll be good, but for what?
It won't be good for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, of course it won't. I mean, still dumb. Having Izawa fight against somebody who's under 500 on this card, and not to mention who only got noticed for beating Panchan Rina Okamoto in Ganryujima Virtual.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like saying, hey, here's your free ticket to get mauled.
Yeah, I mean, good for her for beating Panchan Rina. I mean, Panchan Rina lost her unbeaten record, so good for her. On that, you can't tell me that they could have found someone from shootboxing.
Well, shootboxing, Invicta, maybe even Deep Jewels. I mean, come to think of it, there's a lot of people that they could have gotten other than Lucia Abdelgerum.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as Umeno and Taiga, we just saw Dark Rakudo get submitted by some Takahiro Okuyama in his debut. Why couldn't? Yeah, that makes me think that some of these shootboxing guys can make the transition to MMA pretty handily. So why not try that?
I mean, it worked well for Reina. It worked well for Chihiro Suzuki. It worked well for Hiroaki Suzuki.
To a point, yeah. And Suzuki Chihiro was knockout more so.
Oh,
Was in the knockout promotion, not shoot boxing, but I would love to see the Kasaharas eventually go to MMA. That would be great.
I mean, I would love to know more about the Kasaharas, but
Hell, I'd love to see Kaito someday go to MMA.
as in Kaito Ono.
Yeah, because he's a lower level world class kickboxer, but he's not gonna win the glory title.
Of course,
So if I'm him, I probably would make the transition at this point.
I mean, of course he's not going to win the glory title because he's more used to competing in shoot boxing. That's
Right,
what.
and but he got dominated when he fought for the title.
Right. I mean, wasn't that against Van Roosmalen? No, it wasn't against Van Roosmalen.
I don't remember who it was, but Kaito would be really he'd be really interesting in MMA, I think.
Oh yeah, of course. Especially considering the fact that he would bring over that level of popularity from shoot boxing. And oh, by the way, he didn't lose to Robin Van Roosmalen. Obviously, he lost to Tezjani Bistati.
Okay. And then Kaito actually just won today, earlier today in shootboxing.
Oh, against Mohamed Bouatsa?
Yes, I believe he won. I think he knocked him out. Could be wrong on that, but he won the fight. But my point is, the shoeboxing guys, I think, with their since I like to call shoeboxing standing valetudo with the throws and standing submissions, they have a base.
It just needs to go over internationally, though.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a transition, but it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be like a crash course like Ryusei Ashizawa had, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's just something to keep. If you want a pipeline for new Japanese fighters, shootboxing might be another avenue to go.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. But still, though, I think we just about said all we needed to say over this last hour of talking about Ryzen 49. I mean, obviously, the one question I would ask is other than how can people get in touch with you, even though you have no social media, is what would you say to the casual fan who is on the fence about getting this event?
It's 22 fights. It's got some incredible fighters, and it's New Year's Eve. There's all pomp and pageantry, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And it's it's $14.99 for 22 fights.
Mm-hmm.
That's a phenomenal price point.
Yeah.
And you can watch it on demand. So, yeah, it's a no for me. It's a no brainer. That if I was a casual fan, that would definitely catch my attention just because 22 fights, $15.
Mm-hmm.
That's I know. Sorry to be a dead horse, but that's awesome.
Yeah, of course. And another dead horse topic is, hey, at least it will get rid of your hurt dirt. There's only 4 more weeks to UFC blues. Because, hey, at least it'll give you something to savor your sweet tooth of violence for.
Yeah, I mean, that's another discussion for another day.
Mm-hmm. But still, though, aside from that, how can people get in touch with you even though you have no social media?
You can talk to me on the Discord server. We are Ryzen Discord server with my guests, and my email address is msalt7@aol.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And as always, y'all can find out where I'm at and how you can get in touch with Focus Fights in the description. And one more thing, just to remind you all, Ryzen 49, aka Ryzen Decade, will take place December 30th here in the States at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific on Ryzen.tv and Famio pay-per-view or wherever you get your pay-per-view in your local area of choice. Be sure to get it for $15 or whatever currency you got in your native land. And be sure to, I mean, if you are squeamish about staying up for 8 hours, watch it in sessions. Because you know damn well if you can't stay up to watch the whole show, you're gonna miss out on a lot. But still,
Yeah, it's gonna be like 11, like 10 hours, I would say. I think three and a half ish for the first session, which starts at 11 p.m. Eastern time.
mm-hmm.
Then 2:30 p.m. or 2:30 a.m. I believe for Ryzen 49 itself. And remember, there's a the Koshin final.
Oh yeah, the high school. I mean, how could I not forget the high school MMA final between 18? I mean, let me go ahead and read this off real quick. The Koshian high school MMA final, which will pit 18-year-old Sako Yokoguchi versus 16-year-old Kenshin Saito. I mean, those two kids probably have the opportunity to go pro if they want to. Be the next big stars that Ryzen needs.
Yeah, and that was the whole point of the Koshin thing to begin with. We'll see what happens. That's honestly all I can say on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, that's all I got.
And that's all I got too.
Have a good one.